Good evening. Welcome to tonight's edition of Daily Record Hotline Live. Myself, Keith Jackson, in the studio, all in my lonesome again. But my wee pal, Scotty McDermott's going to keep me company tonight. Scotty, how are you?
Not bad, Jacko. Yourself?
Aye, not bad. You were at Ibrox last night. There's a full card of games. We'll get round to that. We're going to be joined soon by our refereeing expert, resident ref, Des Roache, because there's one incident in particular, Scott, that defies belief for me last week that I wanted to hear a professional opinion on. Astonishing, but we'll come round to that. And there was a couple of incidents at Ibrox as well, wasn't there, where you were? So all that to discuss. But there's only one place to start tonight, really, Scott, and it's the sort of pantomime which has been unfolding over the last few days. Derek McInnes, Hearts, tug of war with Kilmarnock, etc., etc. And it took an unexpected twist this morning when Kilmarnock issued a statement which kind of contradicted what had previously been expected, that Derek McInnes was going to stay in charge for the last two games of the season before moving to Tynecastle. And of course, that would have involved facing a visit from Hearts at Rugby Park on the final day of the season on Sunday. Kilmarnock released a statement this morning which said that is not going to be the case, that Derek McInnes officially ended his time in charge at the club with a 3-0 defeat at Motherwell on Wednesday night. And the whole thing's just a bit of a mess, isn't it? And I kind of feel sorry for all parties, because it's just a freak of the sort of fixture card that all of this has come together to create the perfect storm. I actually think it's no bad thing. I said the other night, Scott, that I didn't want Derek McInnes. Derek McInnes has done way too much for Kilmarnock Football Club to feel as if he was getting a hard time on the final day of a season when he should be, getting the appreciation of the crowd. What he certainly didn't deserve was to be left in a situation where he was kind of having to leave Rugby Park, out the back door with a blanket over his head. And that's the way it was heading.
It is. I mean, it's got a bit messy, which, as you say, seems a bit unnecessary. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you've probably been covering this story a bit more than me, but I mean, why could it not have just waited till the final games were done, Jacko? I mean, if Hearts didn't want Derek McInnes for the final two games of the season, and if they weren't that bothered about it, why is it? Why is it had to kind of kick off?
It does seem like a kind of botched job, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, I'd have thought a club like Hearts going for Derek McInnes, they would know if there was any compensation and what that would be. I'd have thought it should have been a fairly simple job offer. You go to Kilmarnock, you ask for permission to speak, they grant permission, you agree the compensation deal, and then you agree terms. But as you say, I mean, it seems to have got unnecessarily really messy. I feel for Derek in this situation, because you're right, it's going to end it feels like it's going to end on a sour note at Killie when it shouldn't for him and his staff. Obviously, it looks like Alan Archibald and Paul Sheeran will go to Hearts with him.
Because they also emptied their drawers this morning.
I saw that. I mean, I saw a video just before we came on of them, as you say, it was almost like black bags in the boot of a car, trying to get out of Rugby Park, which with a week left in the season just seems ludicrous. No, less than a week left in the season.
I don't think it's been well thought out, well handled. I feel sorry. I feel sorry for a lot of them. I feel sorry for Billy Bowie, because great relationship with Derek McInnes. It was a great appointment. Not the first time that Billy Bowie's made a great appointment. I think that he understands that he can't stand in the way of ambitious managers. I think that's part of the ticket when you bring in somebody like Derek McInnes. You know that you're giving him the chance to get, to sort of recalibrate his career, and the chances are that if he does that successfully at Kilmarnock, he'll move on. So, but I just feel as if it could have been handled better. And the story that I got earlier today, Scott, was that in fact I think Kilmarnock And kind of understandably, they've put out that statement today to kind of make it look as if they're calling the shots. But Derek McInnes had privately, and not even privately, he'd informed the board before the game at Motherwell that, I think he was aware of sort of rising levels of hostility and anger. And I think that I know that he'd made his mind up that he wasn't going to put himself in that, be the villain of the pantomime at Rugby Park on the closing day. I think it's such a shame as well, because this is going to burn a little bit for the Kilmarnock fans. They don't want to lose Derek McInnes, but at the same time, they're football fans. In any other country in the world, by the way, even if they're leaving, they get brought on the final day and their wives are presented with flowers and gifts and everybody says, hello, what a great job you did, goodbye. That's never going to happen in this part of the world. It's just anger all round. But I think the smart thing for Derek McInnes to do was to get out of that. And after the final whistle at Motherwell, I believe that he actually told the players at that point that he wouldn't be taking charge of them against Hearts at the weekend. And I think the reason that the three of them were in at Rugby Park this morning, Scott, was simply to say goodbye to the staff around the place that they've worked with all these, well, what is it now, three and a bit years. But it's nothing but not eventful. Scottish football, the world of Scottish football.
I understand Killie's position, Jack. You're right. I mean, I don't blame Billy Bowie.
No, they've got to try and make the most of it. Aye.
Exactly. It's more probably for the Hearts side. And you're reading reports the other day that they couldn't. There were certain things they couldn't do until they were waiting on Ann Budge getting back for holiday. And
that's not a great look.
It just wasn't. I mean, come on. Listen, I love Hearts as a club. They're a huge club within Scottish football, but it does feel like football decisions in the last few years and stuff around the football side haven't really been brilliantly handled. I even think it was just like Robbie Neilson, the way he was kind of treated at Hearts. It's not been great. And as you say, this isn't a great look either with a few days left to the campaign. I just think it could have been handled a lot better.
Ironically, the irony in it all, Scott, is this is the reason why Hearts are crying out for a guy like Derek McInnes.
I know.
Because the leadership, the management sort of structure above the manager, they're all over the shop. And what they actually really need is a guy like Derek McInnes who he can lead. He'll drive the thing. And you know what? They can just fall in behind. And I think Hearts are crying out for that. They're crying out for a strong leader because they don't have one further up the chain. And I think, it's symptomatic of a club that have botched quite a few things over the last while. And that's why, when the initial interest came up, I said, look, you know what? Don't just assume that Derek McInnes will take this because he'll need to get some sort of guarantees. He'll need to be satisfied with what he hears from this board. I think probably the thing that's really swung it for him will be Tony Bloom's imminent arrival on the scene with a bag full of cash. And I think Tony Bloom will also, if he does get his 29%, I think he'll add a kind of extra layer of professionalism. So you think this is hopefully as bad as it gets for Hearts, and from here on in they can start to move in an upward trajectory. It should get exciting. Derek McInnes will certainly build a strong team there. And you know what it's like, Scott, as we were saying last night at Tynecastle, if you can get that place packed out, get a bit of momentum, what a venue it is. And what an addition that would be if Derek McInnes can do to Hearts what he managed at Aberdeen over the period of 8 years.
Yeah, as you say, I mean that's the type of manager, isn't it? That's why you get him in. When you think of the Andrew McKinley at Hearts has come in for a lot of stick. Obviously for supporters, the way the season's gone, the way the Critchley appointments went, but he'll be delighted with a Derek McInnes appointment because, as you say, McInnes takes control of everything in that side of the football club. You'll probably find you don't hear from Andrew McKinley, or there's barely no mention of it once McInnes is in there, basically running the show. And that, as you say, that's what they're crying out for at the minute.
Yeah, loads of comments coming in on this, actually. I'll read you a few, Scott. Stuart Orr, watching on X. It became messy because Hearts have made their approach so public with 2 games to go. Yeah, if you're going to do that, then just get them in on the Monday. But you were then putting Kilmarnock in a situation where they have to agree to something. And at that time, they weren't guaranteed safety. So you're going to try and get Derek McInnes in, knowing there was still a possibility that Hearts might face Kilmarnock in the final day of the season, wanting to put Kilmarnock into the relegation playoff.
Yeah.
You just kind of think, guys, you didn't think this through.
No.
What else have we got? Mark Fairfield here, just saying 2 games to go. What was the difference? Yeah, it was clumsy. But as we said, Scott, I genuinely believe it is that sign. It's a sign that this is the irony being that it's exactly why they need a guy like Derek McInnes to get a grip of the place and lead it. And that's what he likes doing. He likes to he'll not just be going there as head coach. He likes to manage. He likes to involve himself at all levels.
I think Graham Jones is there as well, isn't he, Jackals? Here,
yeah.
Director of football, sporting director. I mean, that'll be interesting because I don't think Derek's worked with a sporting director as such. I mean, he likes to have recruitment guys, obviously, that he can lean on. He had that Aberdeen, I think actually took the same recruitment guy, Killie, with him. So that dynamic will be interesting between Graham Jones and Derek McInnes. Will be a bit different, but as you say, McInnes likes to lead. He likes to be in charge of most things. On the football side, listen, I'm sure he can't do everything. You need a bit of help, but
yeah,
he will be the main man. There's no doubt, and I think that'll have been a major part of the negotiation when it comes to him,
of course,
becoming manager.
That's what I was saying, Scotland, and that there were potential red flags on this one, but I think at the end of the day, Derek McInnes, had he not taken this and he watched somebody else take the job, I think he would have regretted it. And I think it's time to make the leap. Scott05, does McInnes fit the Hearts model? Well, I think that's going to be interesting to find out. I think Derek McInnes might help shape what the Hearts model actually looks like. And I'm not sure Hearts know what that model is just now. So I think this is a club that will get itself in good nick over the summer. And I expect to see, I think it's going to be an exciting place next season, actually, Scott, Tynecastle. Anyway, moving on from Derek McInnes, Hearts, etc., etc., let us bring in our resident ref, Des Roache. Des, dearie me, I just watched last night a referee who, by the way, I've been singing his praises for most of the season, certainly early in the season. Really impressed by Nick Walsh. Nick Walsh single-handedly, pardon the pun, made a decision last night, which, okay, it might be a bit of a push, but could involve the relegation of 2 clubs from Scotland's Premier League. Des, see when somebody makes a mistake as bad as that, should the referee not be getting relegated? Yes, don't do this to me.
No, sorry. Mute. No, I was on mute. He's only got 1 game to go, hasn't he? He's got if he's selected for the weekend. Like, it's very easy to say he can potentially get two teams relegated. The teams who get relegated have made far more mistakes throughout the season. Let's be honest. I know what
happens over the course of the season, Des, but and the big right. Let's just clarify this for anybody that hasn't seen it. It's the 96th minute at Dens Park. Dundee are beating Ross County 1-0. Ball gets floated into the back of Dundee's box. I think it was Antonio Portales gets caught underneath it, is pedalling back the way to try and get his head on it. Might have been pushed as he's going, so his arm comes up. From behind him, I think it was Ryan Astley. Gets up, wins the header, is heading it away from goal, clearing it out the penalty box, and it brushes the hand of Portales, the outstretched hand, on its way out of the box. On what basis? On any basis, actually, does that constitute a penalty kick?
So you're probably talking to the wrong person. I agree with you, and I think it's probably 99.9% of the nation agree with you. For me, Portales has went to head the ball. The ball's cleared his head, so he has no idea where it is. It could be in Rose Ed, for all he knows. And Astley has then as you said quite rightly, he's tried to clear the ball away from the penalty area. He's hit his own man, of which Portales has no knowledge, can have no knowledge. He's in there and he's trying to balance. It's came down and the ball's hit him. In my opinion, and if it was me and the vast majority of the guys I've spoken to, that's never a penalty kick. That's absolutely appalling. And what I would like to have seen, and as we have praised Nick and we have given him his plaudits, he had the opportunity there to make a stance and say, no, that isn't a penalty kick. And then
he awarded it this.
He awarded it, that's what I'm saying. This is the bit where it's going to come to it. What Nick has done there, and again, I've got some of the clips here from some of the guys we've been speaking to, one current referee observer. He has followed the letters of the law, because it does say in the letters of the law that if the hand touches the ball with either their hand on the arm when in the air and is above or beyond the shoulder level, it is a handball offence. But again, to go around that, I think you could say that you could put that to any handball. What was Willie Collum saying at the start of the season? He wants to see more footballing decisions made.
A common sense approach.
Yeah,
and to be fair, Willie Collum does these ludicrous handball decisions, penalty decisions that were happening every week and almost every game when VAR was first introduced. Remember that spate of just everybody was getting penalties for anything. We seem to be through that madness. And then at such a vital moment in the season, potentially our best referee comes up with this. I'm staggered. By the way,
it's shocking.
By the way, good comment here from Curry. Des should be getting relegated for leaving his mic on mute. Scott,
Aye.
I'm guessing that you feel the same way I do. I'm going to use this word, and I'm using it. I've seen it used. Disgraceful. It was a disgraceful mistake, and I don't think. I would like to think that Willie Collum has to get right on top of this. I know what you're saying there. I know it's. Is it too late in the week now, Des? He'll probably get a game at the weekend. Surely this has to be made an example of, Scott.
I think he does. I mean, listen, it's a ridiculous decision. And with far-reaching consequences, to two clubs.
Well, that's right. I mean, explaining the context of it, St Johnstone had managed to keep themselves just about alive until that penalty goes in. They're then relegated. Dundee now go into a final match of the season, knowing that they could get dragged into 11th spot and into a relegation playoff.
But what gets me is, and you've touched on it there, Willie Collum must be pulling the hair out his head, because you watch him on the VAR review show, which I think is great, and I think he's been brilliant this season, really honest, with loads of decisions. But he keeps saying, when there's a bad decision, he keeps saying that they're teaching the referees, they're getting them in, they're showing them the mistakes, they want them to learn for the mistakes. These guys I don't think they're learning at all for mistakes. You feel as if you see something. A couple of months ago, Willie Collum calls it out for being totally the wrong decision and says he's spoken to the referee, spoken to the VAR, we don't want to see it happening again. And a few months later, you get another one which seems even more ridiculous for a very similar incident.
Did you not mention, Scott, there was almost a perfect example of that, where Willie Collum used one incident to say, this is completely and utterly wrong, and our referees are going to be told this and instructed not to act that way.
I think, I don't remember his exact comments or the exact details, but it was mentioned on Sports Scene last night. Bernabe from Celtic had a handball given against them against Dundee
last season.
Yeah, and that was ridiculous. I'm sure the SFA came out at that point and said, look, it's the wrong decision. We don't want to see penalties given for that. And here we are, probably more than a year later, getting a similar one. As I say, but an even more important one when you consider the consequences. Just in terms of Nick Walsh, what I was wanting to ask Des, because he's been there, is it impossible, Des, for a ref, and we know we've got the hardest job in the world, is it impossible in that moment, last seconds of a game, you're caught up in the whole thing, the atmosphere, is it impossible just to give yourself, just take a pause and give yourself a moment to actually think about what you've seen, what the consequences might be, the context around that kind of decision. I mean, how difficult is that? Because I think that's what Nick Walsh had to do in that instance.
Scott, I couldn't agree with you more, because Nick will have known the magnitude of that game, what's at stake for not just the two teams playing, but a team that's a couple of miles down the line. That's why he got the game, because he's meant to be one of our more experienced guys who can take the time, can buy himself a second or two. I mean, we've seen him do it in numerous Old Firm games where we've praised him highly and quite correctly. But that team last night, and I use the word team because you had VAR there, who was Andrew Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
And at this stage in the game, they've got to get involved and say, you know what, Nick, I think you might want to have a look at this. And that would have bought him at least another minute or so. Take his time getting across. Guys can be talking in his ear. He can have the opportunity to look at it. He never at any point went across the screen. He made the decision on his own.
Does that not tell you, Des, that VAR have said, you're right, Hans?
Yeah, and that's worrying.
I mean, that's even more terrifying for me then. One, he was in a rush to give it, right? He seemed determined to give the penalty. Two, it goes to VAR, obviously, because it's a routine thing. These all have to go to VAR. But three, the guys in VAR office are sitting watching that going, yep, all good, that's a pen. I mean, that's astonishing. Yeah.
Look at the reaction of us. Three guys who know our football, passionate about our football, and not one of us, certainly not the guys that I chat with, none of us expected a penalty. None of us want a penalty for it. And that's what I'm saying. That's where Nick could have used a bit of character and a bit of gumption. But is he refereeing the game there, or is he refereeing to the observer in the stand and what he's expected in his coaching? Because for the life of me, if you're refereeing that as a football referee and someone who understands the game, that's not a penalty kick.
Do you think there's any chance, Des, that Willie Collum comes out on his review show and says, no, we're happy with that decision? Would you be astonished if he came out and said that?
I like what Willie's done this year because he's been more accountable, and he's been more accountable than any SFA's referees come out. I would like to think that he would come out and say, guys, we can't expect penalty. To me, this is a refereeing decision, or a decision that nobody expects in refereeing. And that was his statement at the start of the year. So I would love to see Willie come out and say, do you know what, guys, hands up, we got it wrong. But how does St Johnstone feel with that? Exactly.
What's the legal ramifications for that? If St Johnstone are down, if Dundee then go down, then, you know, can Willie Collum actually come out and say, yep, that one's on us, guys. See you in a couple of years?
Yeah, I don't know. It's very difficult, isn't it? Thank goodness I'm not a lawyer in football.
What a mess. I for the life of me, I just can't understand why Nick Walsh was in such a rush to give it. I hear what you're saying, Des, but my God.
That's the thing. Nick Walsh he knows the game. I mean, he's been in the game a long time. I mean, he has to know the game. He has to know the context of that particular game and what it would mean.
So much riding on it.
I can't believe a guy that knows the game and has ref so many games and must have watched hundreds of these decisions in his training and during games or whatever, and he somehow thinks, he doesn't think to himself, how is that going to look? No, how is this going to look? What are people going to think of that decision? Even if he's thinking by the absolute letter of the law, this is a penalty, refs have to think about the game.
Common sense.
Aye, common sense. How's it going
Law
to
18.
look? Yeah.
Law 18. And as we said there, knowing the game, that's why he's got that game, because it's such high profile and such high stakes at it. See, what does it say? See, if it looks stupid, it probably is stupid. So you don't
if it looks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, yeah.
Aye, it's a duck.
Des, I asked you a question a couple of weeks ago on here, and I think you kind of your answer was kind of ambiguous a little bit, but that you said, I hope that would not be the case. I think I asked you a question about, have you experienced or come across referees who actually go out there looking to make a name for themselves, to be the headline act? Because that, I hate to say it, because I've really, I was really backing Nick Walsh. I really thought he was really on an upward trajectory and going to become a real top ref. That to me was screaming of a guy who didn't need to get involved, chose to get involved, and knew that there was going to be massive consequences to getting involved. And here we are all talking about him the next night.
Well, certainly, as I said at the time, and I won't be ambiguous on it. I've certainly never done it. The guys that have shared dressing rooms have certainly never done it. But when you watch things like that, then I can't say that the thought doesn't crop into your mind, because I think I've said to you, my mantra was I just wanted to go into a game, get in there and get out as quick as you can, and nobody knows you. Mm-hmm. I was always known as Des Roache 6, and I'm quite happy with that. But when guys are making decisions, you think, why do you want to bring that upon yourself? Because it's only going to end one way. It's only going to end one way. I would certainly hope not. And as I said before, we get bad decisions and good decisions. We get bad referees and poor referees. Last night, in my opinion, was just a really, really poor decision.
Was that as bad a decision as you've seen all season? It is for me, given the context.
Yes. The three that stick out to mind this year are this one last night, the Rangers Celtic, the Rangers penalty in the cup final.
Yeah. And
the Maeda cross at Hibernian when the ball was out of line, because that was clearly a guess, because there was no footage or evidence to say that was it. Those are the three that stick out to me, and those were factually wrong. Last night's, it's just not a footballing decision for me. And if I was a referee, not one player claimed for it. No. Not one player was looking for it. And that tells you quite a lot.
What should happen to Nick Walsh if you were Willie Collum?
If it was me, I would just maybe let him go and have an early holiday. And maybe even for Nick's own sake, let him have this weekend off, because he's not getting the cup final. So I would just maybe do a Derek McInnes this weekend. Just watch from afar and go and get the flip flops on.
Right, a comment here from Ali Quinn. Must have been at Ibrox last night. The ref at Ibrox last night was shocking, which does bring us on to the next point. There was a couple of penalty decisions. One that went for Rangers at Ibrox last night, one that they didn't get. Have you had a good look at them both? And because obviously, let's start with Vico Savelge on Diomande. That's the penalty that Rangers did get. But Jim Goodwin didn't seem very pleased by that afterwards, Scott. He mentioned he felt it was soft.
I think it probably was a penalty, Jacko, but at the same time, I think it is a bit soft. I was pretty close to it. I mean, I've not seen too many replays of it, but I was relatively close to it in the main stand last night. And no, my initial thought was it looked a bit soft. Listen, the one clip I've seen, it does look as if he catches him. And to be honest,
he comes through the back of him a wee bit, didn't he?
He does, and I think Goodwin admitted that Savelge, he was tired in the game, and it was a tired tackle. Probably in the first half, Dundee United were doing quite well. He probably gets back, on the right side of Diomande because he's feeling fitter and fresher. I think at that stage in the game, United were tiring, and that's that kind of challenge probably came as a result of that. So it probably was a penalty, but it was soft. And of course, the question at the time of the game last night, I mean, we just expected him to get a second yellow card. They'd already been booked. I don't think.
Not every foul's a booking.
No, I know, but where it is in the pitch, Diomande's in the box, going towards goal. I think that type of challenge normally would get a yellow card. So
Des, give us your verdict on that.
Harsh here, Scott. I think you've been a bit harsh because you're saying I'm not sure it's a penalty. It's maybe a bit soft. For me, if you think it's maybe a penalty, a bit soft, I wouldn't be rushing for a yellow. I think there's enough contact for a penalty. I agree with that. But
do you give the penalty,
Des? I would be yellow card. Yes.
Do you give the penalty? Yeah.
Yeah.
But no booking.
I think if you give the penalty, though, you're saying that's a foul. if I was a Rangers player, I'd be screaming for a second yellow card.
Okay, now, before that, there was an incident when Cyril Dessers went down, Scott, in the box, and it looked very clear to me. Look, there's the picture. 2 hands around his waist. Okay, his Castore shirt didn't rip this time. Is that a penalty kick? Because I'm not even sure that VAR looked at it.
I've seen it briefly on highlights today. That's the first time I've seen a still like this, which, as we always said, stills can paint 1,000 words. Doesn't look great there. I'd need to see the context of how the players sort of came into position like that, but there didn't seem much clamouring for it. There didn't seem much from what I've heard, but yeah, it doesn't look great from there. But again, don't think there's been much. I suppose winning 3-1 at home, there's not much going to get made about it.
Scott, what did you see watching it at full speed? Did you think it was a penalty kick?
I didn't at the time, Jacko. No, I mean, I actually agree with Des. That's the first time I've seen that image. At the time, no, I didn't think it was a penalty. I mean, Dessers was claiming for it. Not many Rangers players run about him were claiming for it, I have to admit. Declan Gallagher, I think, was obviously, as you'd expect, telling Dessers to get up and stop kind of trying to win a penalty. But no, I didn't think that was a pen at the time. But obviously, you've shown me that still now, and it doesn't look great. No, I wouldn't go daft for that one.
Right. Okay. I'm just not sure what the difference was with the kind of the level of foul there, or the degree of foul between the one that Rangers did get and what they didn't get. That's why I wanted to speak to the expert, but I'm still none the wiser.
Neither are we.
Des, thank you so much for joining us. That was great, mate. I don't think we've cleared it up for anybody. The kind of comments you can see aren't great. Scott05, standard refereeing has deteriorated over the years. Here's an interesting one. I wonder how this one good. Joseph Agnew, replay the games the fairest way. Could you imagine?
Jacko, what about the St Mirren goal? I'm interested to get Desi's.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Mikel Mandron scores St Mirren's third goal to win the game 3-2, which would have had huge consequences for St Mirren getting into the last game of the season. No, if they'd have got a win last night, they'd have been in pole position for to get the European spot. Now, Stephen Robinson was raging. I've actually just read Stephen Robinson's quotes again for last night. His argument is, obviously the ref allows the goal. He lets the play continue. No, St Mirren score. He doesn't see an issue until someone's obviously in his ear. And Stephen Robinson's complaining that it was the fourth official that has flagged up the foul and the goal has ended up being disallowed. Robinson's also claiming the ref waved play on because Hibs initially had the ball. St Mirren won it back and go and play. So his argument is it's a different phase of play. So the goal stood anyway, even if they did think it was a foul. What do you think, Des?
I get where Stephen Robinson's coming from, but the attacking phase of play obviously has to start from when St Mirren first got the ball. And St Mirren got the ball because the Hibernian player had been fouled.
Right.
That's ultimately why they've taken possession and taken control. What I do agree with you is why the referee didn't pick it up, because when I seen the still and we spoke about it earlier, the referee wasn't even looking at where the foul had taken place there. And in all the years that I was involved, and the coaching would be that the ball's landing in a neutral area, or it's about to, you're reading the pass you play, you're anticipating what's happening. My initial thought is, I'm watching what's happening here, and I'm looking to pick up that foul because the ball's only going to come inside and there's nothing going to happen there, so I'm watching to see what's happening. The assistant referee, I can maybe let off on that one because he's looking for the offside and he's trying to sort of see the way play's going. Fourth official is fully entitled. That's why he's there. Before VAR, the fourth official's there to give advice to the on-field referee where he's better sighted. So I'm hoping it was the fourth official who brought it to the referee's attention. I think the referee made a poor error in judgment. But the game should never have been allowed to go 6-8 seconds up the other end of the pitch for St Mirren to score and then be brought back. That should have been done and dusted there and there. The ball could have maybe got 10-15 yards further. And the fourth official should be going down there to the referee saying, foul, Hibernian foul.
Exactly.
But as an example of VAR working, Des, is it not?
Yeah, fourth official and VAR if it went to the VAR. But certainly the three guys at that side of the pitch sort of forming a triangle around the incident, they should have picked it up. And if they didn't, they'll poor form on them. And if VAR have picked it up, then great, it's done its job. As much as I don't like not to see St Mirren get the 3 points, the right decision was reached there.
You want to laugh, Des, before you go?
Go for it.
Nick Walsh hasn't gone on his holidays this weekend. Do you know where he is going? Easter Road. Easter Road for Hibs v Rangers.
For a potato.
He's been rewarded. Well done, Nick.
Oh, wow. Right, I'll never understand it. But thank you, Des, for trying to help us through it. And we'll see you soon.
See you soon. Cheers.
Catch you, Des. So, I don't know what to make it, mate. Right, okay. So apparently that's on the SFA's website that Nick Walsh will indeed be in charge of Hibs v Rangers on the final day of the season. No doubt. Barry Ferguson and David Gray will be delighted.
I'm assuming that was decided before last night, obviously.
I would have thought so. Right, Scott, I mean, in terms of, let's touch on the other games last night. Celtic go up to Pittodrie, romp at 5-1, playing the reserve side.
Yeah.
If you're Aberdeen right now, you're looking at this Hampden thing thinking, I don't need this in my life.
No. I mean, we were talking about it last night. I mean, I was laughing actually this morning when I thought about when we were on Hotline Live last night. Scott Burns tipped a one each draw.
Yeah.
You know? I'll not be going to him for my cooking. You're right. I mean, Aberdeen, so poor. I've seen
they're a shambles, Scott. They're a shambles, and they're going to get torn apart in the cup final.
I know. I watched them. I saw them live against St Mirren last week. Saw them live against Rangers. They were poor at St Mirren. Saw them live against Rangers. On Sunday, really poor again. Concede 4. And then last night, as you say, I mean, against a shadow Celtic team at home, massive crowd behind them, dress rehearsal for the cup final. To produce that kind of performance and concede 5, I mean, Jesus. And no, in all seriousness, the cup final, if they don't get their act together, this cup final could get messy. I mean, so much so, me and our colleague Gavin Berry, we were actually talking this morning about the kind of biggest winning margin in a cup final. I think Gav looked back, I think it's like 5 goals is the biggest winning margin. You're going way back, by the way. I know there's been a couple of 5-1s in our time. Hearts, Hibs, Rangers v Hearts. But this could get messy if Aberdeen...
No, Celtic took six off them the last time the pair met at Hampden.
That's right, in the semi. Yeah.
And when you look at that last night, that is pretty much Celtic's second string that's gone up the road there to Aberdeen's home and absolutely disemboweled them. And you know that Celtic are just going to be so up for cup final day. Brendan Rodgers is going to go as strong as he can possibly go. I just see Aberdeen getting absolutely annihilated. I think it could be a humiliating day at Hampden for Aberdeen.
I think, listen, but this, Jacko, this is where Jimmy Tillene's got to earn his con. I mean, he's a well-respected coach. No, he was sought after. Aberdeen fought tooth and nail to get him. So these are the days, or these are the games where it has to show why that's the case. I mean, for me, they can't just turn up there and play the way they've been playing. No, this kind of 4-2-3-1. I mean, you look at the formation last night and the players and the positions. Very attack-minded. Leighton Clarkson, who's a playmaker, is one of your sitters in midfield. I think Papa Gay was behind Kevin Nisbet or the other way about. One up, one off. With the 2 wingers playing as well. Graham Shinney at left back.
Yeah, that's a curious one.
I mean, they need to go to Hampden and shore it up. I mean, they want to go and be competitive in that game, give themselves a chance to actually try and win the trophy. Now, whether that means going to a back 5, 5-4-1, try to shut up shop, try to frustrate Celtic, play somebody with pace, maybe like Keskinen up front, for instance, on his own. they have to do something. I mean, Jimmy Tilleen's far more qualified than any of us, but he has to come up with a game plan. He can't just turn up there at Hampden the way they did last night or the way they did at Ibrox at the weekend, because, as you say, they'll get absolutely annihilated. Celtic going for a treble. They've been able to rest some of their top players. No, on that big pitch, I mean, it could get really messy. And I genuinely hope Aberdeen and Tilleen do get their act together and at least make a game of it on the day.
Well, it could get even worse, right? Because you kind of look back at the way Tilleen started, and it felt like the real deal. Everything was moving in the right direction for Aberdeen. Momentum was building. The fans were getting right behind it. It was really exciting to have this sort of rejuvenation in Aberdeen. But they're now going into the final league game of the season. It's basically a straight shootout between them and Dundee United for fourth place. So they could get leapfrogged, dumped down in another position. And I'm looking at it. Do you know, Scott, a curious thing? So these are the teams fighting for fourth and fifth in our top flight. One of them is in -10 of goal difference, and one of them is in -12. So which means Dundee United are in -10, Aberdeen are in -12. How can you be in that position in the league and have a -10 and -12 goal difference?
Well, you could argue that tells you about the standard of the league. I think what it also tells you is these teams have gone on poor runs. I mean, Dundee United had a great season in terms of
they've been quite steady.
First year back up. But I mean, even United have lost their last 4 games. They got into the top 6, lost 4 on the bounce, getting into this game at the weekend. Aberdeen, as you know, went in that horrendous run. I mean, what was it, 13 without a win? So the goal difference is going to take a battering by nature on that run. But you're right, no, it doesn't make great reading.
Crazy, man.
And Aberdeen, you're right. If Aberdeen get beat at the weekend, then you wouldn't rule it out the way they're playing. I mean, what a body blow that'll be to them ahead of the cup final.
That's what I'm saying. All the good work that was done at Aberdeen at the start of the season could be completely wiped out over the course of these last 3 games. Last night, the weekend against United, and then the cup final, completely wiped out. And Jimmy Tilleen could be starting next season with serious pressure on. Because I don't think the Aberdeen fans, I don't know how much they're supposed to forgive. And they're having to try and forgive quite a lot right now.
Yeah. And can I accuse the fans of no backing them, Jack? I mean, even last night, I think the crowds, I think they've the best crowds up there for years. I mean, they've got right behind the whole Tilleen project.
They've stuck with them through the difficult bits of the season.
100%.
But I tell you what, if they get beaten by United at the weekend, that's enough. United will leapfrog them into fourth. And if they're on the end of something horrible at Hampden, which I strongly suspect they're going to be, I think that's a horrible summer. And just to sum it up, we'll leave it on this, Scott. Obviously, Lewis Ferguson is one of the guys that did man the escape raft and get out of Pittodrie. And what a night that was for him last night. The first Bologna captain to get his hands on Coppa Italia for 51 years, or any trophy for 51 years, and the first Scot to do it since Graham Souness 40 years ago. Yeah. It's astonishing. The guy is now an absolute legend at his football club.
Yeah, incredible. Just brilliant to see him. Obviously, he's had a wee niggly injury in recent weeks, and they've tried to manage him, but it was so good just to see him starting as captain last night, in a major final in Rome against AC Milan, and to come out on top, and as you say, get your hands in the trophy, even though he, again, shown a bit of his character and a bit of his leadership. I think he was obviously adamant that the club captain was going to help him lift it. Just a brilliant moment, and what a week it could be for Scots in Italy.
The tartan takeover continues. Incredible, isn't it?
Unbelievable.
And that just will put the tin lid on it if Scott McTominay and Billy Gilmore do end up lifting the Scudetto as well. Absolutely incredible stuff.
And Jacko, how many times have we said that? We've been on a lot of the Scotland trips, obviously, I seen somebody posting it last night, just saying Billy Gilmour's your number 6, Lewis Ferguson a number 8, Scott McTominay a number 10. That has to be your Scotland 3-man midfield, is it not?
It's going to get pretty tricky for Steve Clarke if he doesn't do it.
I mean,
Keeps playing Kenny McLean.
I mean, listen, they 3 have got to start. I mean, listen, who knows if they're going to even be in the squad for these friendlies, right? They don't really matter too much, but the World Cup campaign has to be built around these 3.
Yeah,
these 3 players, surely.
Yeah,
surely.
I'm not sure that these guys will be in a rush to get to Liechtenstein at the end of this season, Scott. I think they'll argue that they're well due a break in the beach someplace.
Yeah. No, I don't think they'll be in the squad for the friendlies, but as I say, when the proper games start, what is it, September, World Cup qualifying starts. No, as I say, the Scotland team of the future has to be built around these 3 guys. Anything other than that would seem daft.
No, of course, and listen, this is what's so heartwarming about it, Scott, is that we're in a right healthy state with these guys in the national team and even our domestic league. I mean, I know we're moaning about refs and all that tonight, but do you know what? It's not all that bad, is it? We've got a decent product here. It's exciting, and we've got some talented boys as well coming through. Your Lennon Millers as well that'll join in that sort of progression in the national side over the years. So we're ending it on a positive note, even though I'm still getting my head around what Nick Walsh, how one man can relegate 2 clubs in one night with one decision. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully Dundee aren't left to rue that. I think, Scott, they've got St Johnstone already relegated on the final day. Ross County at home to Motherwell. So there would need to be a dramatic turnaround. I think Dundee would need to lose and Ross County would need to win. I don't see it happening, but the very fact that it might happen is pretty much all down to Nick Walsh's contribution last night. Yeah. So we're leaving it on a sour note now. I've talked myself out of it. Scotty, thanks very much for joining us. Guys, once again, inundated with messages. Sorry I couldn't get them all, get you all a mention. But thanks very much because we really appreciate all your comments. And we'll be back on Sunday, I think it's 6 p.m. And we'll find out if Nick Walsh has managed to get 2 teams relegated or put into the top 2 or the bottom 2 spots in the league on the final day of the season on Sunday. Thanks a lot, guys. Scott, thanks. And thanks to Des Roache for joining us earlier. Cheers.